What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am the Beaver, and today we gotta talk about episodes 3 and 4 of Welcome to Derry. I know I'm a little bit late, but I just finished these episodes since I've had a hell of a month. But that doesn't matter now. We are here, we are ready. This show is doing some things really well, and some things that make me stare into the camera like, bruh. We've got 1908 flashbacks, psychic episodes, kids on bikes, like it's the Walmart version of Stranger Things, and unfortunately, we've also got CGI that looks like it was rendered on a Nintendo DS. Plus, we need to talk about this Charlotte and Hank subplot. Now, let's break this down. Full summaries, major highlights, why certain decisions are not working, and theories for what's next. Let's get into it.
Like this, subscribe, like this video.
Episode 3 is packed. Decades of lore, forbidden forests, kids forming their squad, and one of the worst climaxes I've seen in TV. Like, genuinely, Pennywise must have peeked into the writer's room and said, let me target their VFX budget real quick. But let's start at the beginning. At the end of episode 2, we see a car getting dug up. That car belonged to Al Bradley, who was massacred in Derry during Prohibition. And yes, the entity was involved. This ties directly into General Shaw's obsession, why he still carries his childhood slingshot, and why he's back in Derry with Uncle Sam's blessing. But let's be honest, the US Army thinking they can weaponize Pennywise might be one of the funniest delusions in the entire series. The episode begins in 1908 with young Francis Shaw. He's at the fair, feeling fear for the first time, and instead of comforting him, his father basically hits him with the classic, don't be a coward. Us guys, we've all been there. Francis gets a slingshot from his dad, then trades it for water with Rose, a Native American girl he clearly falls in love with immediately. Their friendship takes a turn when they enter a forbidden forest, and the entity appears as a freak show-like creature. The same creature Francis saw at the fair. Rose ends up using the slingshot to defend him, which gives it the supernatural aura we see later in Shaw's adult life. The message is clear. The entity didn't just haunt Derry, it shaped Shaw's entire identity. General Shaw returns to Derry as an adult and reunites with Rose. He says he almost forgot about her, about Derry, about everything. Rose warns Shaw about the tribe's anger, especially after the military dug up Al Bradley's car. Her nephew Taniel is ready for war, but she tells him to stand down, even cutting him off before he says what they're really guarding. Dick gets assigned to Leroy and Captain Russo for an aerial mission. He experiences a psychic episode mid-flight where Pennywise appears mentally and terrifyingly close. Afterward, Leroy invites Dick to dinner, which starts nice, but it ends tense. Dick calls out Leroy's mind as feeling no fear, no panic, and just analyzing every single thing around him. This scene foreshadows Leroy's transformation into the hardened man we eventually see in the 2017 film. And now, the kids. Lily returns from the hospital and teams up with Ronnie. Together, they convince Will and Rich to join them. They head to the graveyard to summon the entity based on Rich's cultural tradition, which is hilarious because Rich basically admits he made half of it up just to hang out with the girls. And I ain't gonna lie, we've all done something like this as kids, so I felt for him. And then the ghosts show up. The kids run around in what can only be described as a Halloween maze chase sequence at Spirit Halloween. It's repetitive, not scary, and it ends with Will encountering a ghost in a crypt off camera. Bro, off camera. Thankfully, the episode ends with a phenomenal Pennywise photo reveal, the one thing that saves the disastrous climax. Episode 4 cranks up the character drama, the racial tension, and Pennywise's mental manipulation, and honestly, gives the show its strongest emotional material so far. The kids take their supernatural evidence to Chief Bowers, and this man couldn't care less. His level of apathy makes me wonder if he even likes being a cop. Charlotte confronts Bowers about Hank Grogan, who's terrified he's going to be lynched because of false accusations and his relationship with a white woman. Steven Ryder is amazing. His fear feels real, but we'll talk about why this subplot doesn't fit later on. The kids then start to realize that Pennywise feeds on fear. They're not just running anymore. They're analyzing Pennywise, everything he does, every projection he's making. Then Marge and her so-called friends decide to play a prank on Lily, a joke that became a nightmare as Marge's eyes begin to grow to a point where she tries to cut them out herself. This scene is pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie, but the CGI is absolute garbage. I'll get to that later on. We learn more about the entity through Derry's indigenous legends, seeing that he came to Earth millions of years ago, which in my opinion is a bit much. Makes sense if it was a couple thousand, but you're telling me that the same tribe has been there for millions? I'm not buying it. Okay, let's talk about this. Because look, the main story of Welcome to Derry is pretty good so far. A little slow, but I'm hopeful. But this subplot feels like it belongs in a completely different show. I'm talking about the Charlotte Hanlon and Hank Grogan story. It's fine as a historical detail, but it adds nothing to the Pennywise mythos, nothing to the horror, and nothing to character development. In fact, the writers said, hey, it's 1960s, we need drama, add a racially charged police conflict. And my question is, why? It never ties to Pennywise, it never informs the supernatural arc, it never deepens the kids' journeys, it just takes up screen time. Charlotte is Will's mother, and instead of using her to expand Will's emotional trauma or explore Pennywise's impact on Derry, which I thought that was the direction they were going in, instead, they're turning her into a political mouthpiece. Again, is it historically accurate? Yes. Is it relevant to Pennywise? No. Does it enhance the horror? No. Does it deepen the mythology? No. This subplot doesn't fit the tone or the purpose of the show to begin with. Welcome to Derry is supposed to be a horror series, a supernatural mystery, and a deep dive into Pennywise's origins and influence, not a political drama. And this is where modern TV keeps fumbling. Audiences watch TV shows and or movies to escape reality, not to relive the exact same social conflicts they're already exhausted by. Every time a show inserts real-world activism or political commentary where it doesn't organically belong, viewers check out. Not because they don't care, but because it breaks immersion. It starts feeling like we can't escape this stuff no matter what. Take Grey's Anatomy, for example. Every season was rated really highly, up until season 17, where they integrated COVID as part of their story. Was it a worldwide event that needed to be talked about? Yes. Did we need to see it in the TV show meant to entertain the masses? Absolutely not. Take shows like Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, and even Avatar: The Last Airbender. Most, if not all, the subplots always connected to the main story. Maybe I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but this is something I see time and time again. We don't need a reminder of injustices during our time of entertainment. Again, is it important? Yes. But I personally don't want to see these issues in a horror series about a cosmic killer clown. The reason that the Cuban Missile Crisis works in the storyline is because it's what's driving the government to capture Pennywise as a weapon against the Russians. Whereas Hank Grogan getting wrongfully arrested doesn't really do much to the story, if I'm being honest. If you were to remove the Hank Grogan subplot, nothing would change. Pennywise is terrifying on his own, Derry is horrific on its own. We don't need political messaging to make the story meaningful. I thought Charlotte exploring Derry in episode 2 was more meaningful than the direction the writers decided to go with. Let the monster be the monster. The best horror uses metaphor, not lectures. And like I said, maybe I am jumping the gun too soon. I just hope they somehow tie it back to the main story in a non-lazy way and make it clever enough so it doesn't feel like they forced it down our throats like most of Hollywood does nowadays. It's a wait and see for now, but it's not looking good. Now, let's talk about my second biggest complaint, the CGI. The lighting in the show is beautiful. The acting is strong, but the CGI in this series so far is atrocious. When I see the ghosts in the cemetery or Marge's eyes when they grow out of her head, I find myself asking, what happened? Like seriously, what happened? And I ask this because this isn't a thing that we only see on TV shows. I see this almost everywhere now, even in films. Where did we go wrong? Why did Hollywood start getting lazy? I don't understand because as far as I'm concerned, I know popular shows and films have higher budgets, and those are the ones that have been having the worst CGI. The CGI looks similar to the CGI you saw in Power Rangers back in the day. It looks goofy. If we're doing an origin story based on an iconic horror villain, let's put some effort. Am I wrong or am I right? It's weird to see that as technology advances, CGI seems to be dwindling. I don't know why, because when I look back at movies like the early Transformers and see the CGI in that movie compared to today's, you would think it would be the other way around. They got to address this problem, or maybe it's better if studios just had a smaller budget, because when they do, they focus more on the story, and I feel that the shows and or movies are just way better. That's just what I think. But let's move on. Now let me tell you some theories I have for the upcoming episodes. In episodes 5 and 6, I believe Pennywise will fully manifest. Shaw's childhood trauma will circle back for a confrontation. The tribe will be hiding something bigger and secretive than the entity itself. Hank's subplot will likely end tragically. Rich may become Pennywise's next target, and I believe someone will die in episode 5 or 6. The finale will mirror the 2017 film where the kids will end up in the sewers, the illusions, and the floating bodies. Alright guys, that's my full breakdown and some of the critiques I've had for episodes 3 and 4 and the whole series overall. This show has so much potential. When it hits hard. But when it misses pretty bad. But do you think the Charlotte and Hank subplot fits the series? And how are you feeling about the CGI so far? If you think I missed anything, let me know down in the comments as well. Like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all my socials down in the description. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.